So tonight, as the investigations into the president churn on, the Wall Street Journal is reporting federal prosecutors are working on a campaign finance case against the president, similar to the way the government tried to go after the 2008 Democratic presidential candidate John Edwards, which ended with an acquittal. Had Edwards been found guilty, he was looking at up to $500,000 in fines and potentially up to 15 years of prison time. The Journal is reporting tonight that the president, who in the past said he didn't know anything about these payments, said this.
Do you know about the $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels? Why did Michael Cohen make it if there was no truth or allegation?
Well, you have to ask Michael Cohen. Michael's my attorney, and you'll have to ask Michael.
So that was back in April. They're saying that he was directly involved in the arrangements for the payments to porn actress Stormy Daniels and Playboy model Karen McDougal. You remember this investigation was kicked up to the New York office by Robert Mueller's office. Tonight, we get the story straight from the source. Michael Rothfeld is an investigative reporter with the Wall Street Journal who co-authored this new report out today. Michael, thanks for being here. Good to have you here tonight. So if the president lied and said, I had nothing to do with it, and he did, is that illegal?
Well, it's not illegal for the president to lie to reporters.
Right.
And in fact, the president can't be prosecuted under Justice Department opinions while he's a sitting president. So there doesn't appear to be that legal jeopardy for him. But what we reported today is that contrary to his denials and of the White House and his aides, that he actively, during the 2016 campaign, was involved in these two hush money payments and directed them, orchestrated them with Michael Cohen, his former fixer, who's pleaded guilty to crimes.
So you're reporting that the investigators are looking into whether or not there's campaign finance violations. And in your story, it says a criminal conviction would require proof that Mr. Trump willfully skirted legal prohibitions on contributions from companies or individuals in excess of $2,700. So there would have to be a link between the payment that was made and the campaign fund. Does that link exist?
Well, that's something that, we'd have to see what all of the evidence were if they were to bring a case. Again, they gathered this information in the investigation of Michael Cohen. That's an ongoing investigation in New York. But more jeopardy than with a criminal prosecution, because he is the president, is what could happen in Congress. Potentially, the Democrats have taken over the House. Might they start looking into this matter in January when they take over? That's an open question.
Yeah. Now, Michael Cohen pleaded guilty to campaign finance violations, but as part of his plea, he said that the payments were made to influence the outcome of the 2016 presidential election, which I always thought was interesting. I mean, it was basically, it sort of felt like he had to say that in order to get his deal.
I think they definitely wanted him to plead guilty to that.
They wanted him to say that,
sure,
right.
Absolutely. He had other crimes, and but he went in open court. He implicated the president. We reported, based on multiple sources, that he coordinated with David Pecker, the CEO of the National Enquirer's parent company, to pay off Karen McDougal.
Yeah. One of the questions I have just reading through your piece today is, and as you say, the political side of this is totally different than the legal side of this.
Right.
There's not a lot of potential legal jeopardy that has been spelled out clearly in any of this, because you're allowed to make a settlement with someone. You're allowed to pay someone off. He said he didn't pay them off, and he said he didn't have this relationship.
Right. You're not allowed to do that to influence an election. And
correct. That's where the potential campaign
and if
finance violation.
If you were an ordinary citizen, that would be a different matter. But he's the president,
right,
and you can't prosecute.
I'm wondering if there's a pattern of these kinds of payments over the course of someone's life. Is that a mitigating argument to whether or not it had anything to do with the election?
Potentially, but it would also have to do with what's the timing of this payment, what evidence is there in terms of communications about why they made the particular payment. Right. Stormy Daniels was paid 2 weeks before the election.
Yep.
That's a timing issue that would be part of evidence if there were ever a case brought against Donald Trump.
So in terms of John Edwards, he basically said, look, I didn't want my family, I didn't want this to come out. I mean, one of the, sort of potential defenses for the president is, of course, I didn't want to admit to this payment or this arrangement because it's embarrassing to me. It would be embarrassing to my family, and it's a private matter.
that would definitely be a defense that the president would assert. In this case, Edwards is a little different because some of the payments actually were made after he had dropped out of the presidential race. So a lot of experts have opined would be a stronger case if it were brought, if the president could actually be prosecuted. And, you know, we don't have all the evidence, but we are reporting that he was actively involved during the campaign, contrary to what he and his aides had said for the last, 2 years since.
Well, what was your sense in terms of what the plan is in this prosecution? How actively they're pursuing this, where they think it stands?
Well, they're doing an ongoing investigation into the Trump organization, his company.
Right.
So we don't know all of where it's going to go
So we'll look
yet.
for the next big piece from the Wall Street Journal. Thank you very much, Michael. Good to see you tonight.
Thank you.